was one thing dealing with the odd person in the street saying, "Oh, aren't you tall?" And another thing dealing with sort of 30,000 people screaming like obscenities at you, taking the piss out of the way you look. People were shouting "freak" and "does the circus know you're here?" Like these were the things that people were saying. This is my first season in professional football. I'm feeling my dad's having a fight. I'm getting absolutely abused. My mum's crying. What am I doing? Why am I putting myself through this? Of course I love football and that's, what I want to be, but is it worth all this?
When was the first time that you realised that you were different? Because I remember coming to the UK from Botswana in Africa, and I was the only black kid in an all-white school. And there's some day, I think I remember specifically a comment that a kid made to me on the playground, which really put into perspective that I was actually different to them. It was something about my hair. I had a little kind of Jackson 5 afro going on that I'd combed out. And from that day onwards, I kind of noticed that I was different. Can you recall a time where you realised that you being taller made you different?
Yeah, well, I think it's only people with experience, like older people, that notice anything like that, isn't it? Really, I think as kids, we just grow up, everyone's the same, aren't they? And then it's older kids. So when I was, I was always the tallest in my class, but my mum and dad never made a big deal of it to me. I was always taller than everyone else. And then when we started to play football, and then when I started to be good at football, you would hear things on the sideline like, yeah, but he's a couple of years older, or yeah, he's good, but he's too old. And because you're only judged by your height at that age. So I'd hear things from the parents, and then I'd hear little remarks, like people laughing, little japes and jibing, and because people saying, "Oh, you're skinny" or "you're lanky" is seen as it's sort of like you're allowed to say it in some ways. Do you know what I mean? It's a describing word. But that's how it was for me. But I love it. It feels to me like it's part of me. It's me now. I've always been taller than everyone else. It wasn't as if I just shot up and was different. I was just always ahead above everyone else. And that is a part of me now, which I love.
Richard Osmond, who came on the podcast, was the first person who kind of stunned me into silence, because I have to be completely honest. I didn't realise that heightism, abusing people for being tall, was such a sort of consequential thing for those people. I was one of the people who didn't realise that someone who's lived their height being very, very tall will be told about it everywhere they go, every second, and how that can impact someone and how they feel. Honestly, when I remember doing that podcast, I remember sitting here and going, fucking hell, of course. It'd be like anything else with me. If I had a third arm and everyone said it everywhere I go, it would make me subconscious about it.
Exactly right, yeah. And it's because there's bigger problems everywhere. There's bigger problems. But my problem, or it was my thing that was different, was my height. I recently, did a joke of all the questions that I was permanently asked. I had a series of cards in my inside pocket to answer every single question that the people I knew were going to ask me. So it was, what's the weather like up there? Do you play basketball? How tall are you? Do you sleep in a grow bag? Is the weather different up there? Right, 5 questions, but I had all the answers in my inside pocket. So before they even opened their mouth, I could give them a card. And it was just something funny, that changed the subject. But it's amazing how many times, I think it's less so now because people know who I am and know what I'm about. But before I became well known, those questions were just constant.
What impact does that have? We joke about it as, now, but what impact does that have on a young man?
Well, on an impressionable young teenager, it had a big impact. Me now, it's water for ducks back. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah, as a young lad, it was a little bit different. I remember my dad getting, really angry about it. Because as a teenager, you're going through things that are a little bit, you're not comfortable within your own skin, are you, as a young lad? So I was the same as everyone else, but I found it difficult at times, really difficult. And especially football terraces, as I got older, and I was playing professionally. And then I started playing in the first team. And all of a sudden it was there's one thing dealing with the odd person in the street saying, "Oh, aren't you tall?" And another thing dealing with sort of 30,000 people screaming like obscenities at you, you know, taking the piss out of the way you look, laughing at you. That was difficult.
When you say difficult, what do you mean? In a practical sense? Because I read that like 14 and 15 years old, you're crying yourself to sleep sometimes because of this and having conversations with your dad about it.
Yeah. I think there was times where I thought to myself, is it worth it? Is it worth going through this? Why am I putting myself through this? It's all I've ever loved. It's all I've ever wanted to do. But if people are going to laugh at me and take the piss out of me, what is the point, you know? Do I want it that much? I was lucky I had a good support network around me. You know, I had good people around me. My dad was great with me. He was harsh with me at times as well, but he was also really, really good and at pulling me back up and sort of giving myself more confidence. And listen, I don't look like your average footballer. And I've known that since I was 10, 11 years old. You know, when I watch football on the TV, I don't see anyone that represented me. Really, like Torandre Flo was potentially one, had good technique. There was a couple of players but not many. So I thought to myself, maybe I'm not right. Maybe I don't look right. I shouldn't be a player. You know, I had all these things going on in your mind, but ultimately, if, you know, I had the determination and I had the ability to, and I suppose the thick skin, which you have to have to go past it.
You said there that there was thoughts in your head of maybe I should quit, maybe I should go do something else. Were those like real considerations you had at some point?
Yeah. Oh, without doubt. They were. That was. I used to think to myself, is it worth it? Like, why? I always remember the game. It was West Brom away where I came on, and I missed the chance, and nobody knew who I was. I was just a kid. You know, I was probably the same height as I am now, and I was probably about 9.5 stone. I was, you know, much skinnier than I am now, believe it or not. And I'm trying to be a Premier League player. You know, it's just, people just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And at times I thought it myself. I thought, well, I know I've got ability, but I'm looking at these big, strong, you know, developed men. Like, I can't compete with this. And I always remember coming on and people actually laughing at me. And then there was another game away at Gillingham where I just got absolutely abused to the point where, you know, people were shouting "freak" and "does the circus know you're here?" Like this, these were the things that people were saying. And my dad was in the crowd. I always remember it. I was walking out at half time of the game, and my dad was rolling down the aisle in the Gillingham end, having a fight with someone. I thought, oh my God, this is my first season in professional football. I'm thinking my dad's having a fight. I'm getting absolutely abused. My mum's crying. You know, what am I doing? Why am I putting myself through this? Of course, I love football and that's, you know, what I want to be, but is it worth all this?
How do you feel about those people that are shouting like "freak" at you when you come on the pitch and upsetting your family? Like, how do you like think about them and that kind of culture now?
No, do you know what? Like, it'd be easy for me to sit here and go, you know, the brain dead, they're this, they're that, but growing up in a football culture, it was like, I've been there myself on a football terrace where you know, and I hear things. My dad used to cover my ears and stuff. I used to go to Chelsea as a kid, and I don't know, it's like almost normal. And I know it's wrong, and obviously there's a line, you know what I mean? Obviously we've seen it recently, you know, with racism, and, you know, there's certain things that go well over the line, but, you know, being tall wasn't considered, you know, over the line. So it was something that I just decided was the way football is. You know, can we change that? Can I change that? I don't think so. So I just got on with it. And how do I think about them now? I think, yeah, it was reckless. I think I sat down a Gillingham fan that was abusing me that day, and I said to you, do you know what? You really, like, my mum was crying, my dad had to have a fight. I was thinking about giving up football. I think he'd say, oh God, I'm sorry. I think he would, but I don't think in that moment he saw us as people. It's like you're a footballer on the pitch and you're not seen as, it's like such tribalism that you're just going to endure, you have to endure it for, you know, you're well paid, so you have to endure this kind of level of abuse. And I think things are changing. You know, I'd like to think they are. We're trying to help that, but certainly in those days, it was a case of get on with it.
did that put a chip on your shoulder? You know, when you hear those things and you're running onto the pitch and you hear people abusing you or whatever else, or you're aware of that narrative in your head, when you come on, do you think to yourself, I'm gonna fucking show these people? Did it give you doubt, or did it give you an extra bit of confidence?
It's a little bit of both. I think like when I was like, I didn't know whether I was going to play for England or I was going to be a non-league player, and either of them would have been fine. Like I wasn't on the map to go and play for England. You know, I wasn't Steven Gerrard, I wasn't Michael Owen, I wasn't Wayne Rooney. You know, I had a different path. I wasn't ready for the Premier League till I was 22, 23 probably. You know, so I didn't know where my career was going to go. So yeah, there were times where I doubted myself, but then I think I scored my first goal, and things just changed, and it was the most important moment of my life, and it was against Gillingham again, believe it or not. Funny how it comes round, but I chested the ball down and I volleyed this ball into I was at QPR, and I knew then that I'd have a career in football. I didn't know I'd play for Liverpool, I didn't know I'd play for England, but I didn't know what I'd go on to achieve, but I knew then I'd have a career in football, and that was where my confidence grew, and then I thought, no, I can do this.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favour. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.